So we're going to talk a little bit about answering the phone. Now, in many call centers, this process is automated where you might not have too much of a choice of when you pick up the phone. But in the cases that it isn't, I'm going to give you some guidelines. If you pick up the phone within one ring, I would say that that's probably not enough time to get yourself prepared. You want to be ready to be able to address this phone call properly, which is why one ring might not actually be suitable. It might be a bit too quick. The other thing, too, is it sends an impression that you're just basically sitting around doing nothing, just basically waiting for the phone to ring. It isn't quite the impression we want to send. So answering the phone at the very first ring might not necessarily be the best advice. 3 rings is perfect. If you just let it ring 3 times, on the third ring, pick that phone up. By the first ring, you'll know that you're getting a call. By the second ring, you can get yourself ready to receive the call. Get yourself in a situation where you've got your computer screen up. Everything is ready to go. On the third ring, you pick up the phone. Now, if you leave it beyond that, 4 rings or 5 rings, I would say that's probably a little too long. Sometimes people might even imagine that by 5 rings, there's nobody home. They might, in fact, hang up. So I would suggest that, making sure that you answer the telephone call at around 3 rings, that's about perfect. When you answer the phone, I want you to be prepared to convert that lead or that caller into a lead and then into an appointment. What that means is being ready. Not doing a whole bunch of other things that might be distracting. Certainly not emailing while you're on the phone, or stopping paying attention by answering texts and I know that this sounds crazy, but it happens in practices all the time. I know one particular practice that the receptionists are so concerned about time that they are consistently texting the phone operators to get them to move forward and faster so that they can get to see patients. That's not a great environment when you're being pressurized from other staff members to get off the phone quickly. The point is to actually have a good, valuable, invested phone call with somebody with no distractions. And that's you can't have that kind of behavior going on in the background. I want to also introduce something called the up system. In small groups, it's important for one person every single day to know that they're going to be responsible for answering the phone. It doesn't have to be the same person every day. It can in fact rotate, and that's what I call the up system. What this means essentially is that, let's say you have 5 people in a call center environment. 5 people is pretty normal. It could be a little less, it could be more, but let's say you have 5 people. So what that means is that the one person answers the phone every single Monday. They're responsible for answering that phone. So when the phone rings, you're never in a situation where the people in the room are looking at each other saying, "Are you going to get it? Are you going to get it?" Or, "I'm a little busy, can you get it?" Then potentially letting the call ring and ring and ring, and then the person answering the phone having to run to the phone, pick it up out of breath, and not being ready. So this is why I recommend the up system. So on Monday, the first person on the team might be responsible for getting the calls. If they're on the phone already, then we go to Tuesday's person. That second person answers the calls that come in. If they're on the phone, then the third person answers the calls when they come in. Does that make sense? So what I'm after here is that on Monday, person 1 answers the phone. That then rotates so that on Tuesday, person 2, the Tuesday person, is responsible for answering the phone. The Monday person goes to the bottom of the line because they're done. And then essentially we go through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday precisely that way, so that every single day, one person, a separate person, is responsible for answering the phone first. If that person's busy, then the second person who's in line answers the phone. If that person is busy, then the third person in line answers the phone. This can work not only with 5 people, I just use that as a convenient example, but you can do it with 2 people, you can do it with 3 people, you can do it with as many people as you like. So for smaller call center organizations that want to make sure that there's always somebody who's answering the phone, it's a good idea to designate, say, Susie does it on a Monday, Laura does it on a Tuesday, Mary does it on a Wednesday, and so on like that, like a rota. I'm going to talk a little bit about the proper inbound greeting. The inbound greeting is essential to make sure that you start the call off right. And what it involves is essentially 4 parts. 4 parts including a greeting, good morning or good afternoon, communicating your company name, that's number 2, talking about who you are, your name. That's number 3. And 4, asking a question like, how can I help? Now, when I listen and review different phone calls, I hear people using various amounts of these different these 4 different components in their greeting. Some people will say company name, full stop. So they might say Livesey Solar, and then there. That's not enough. Again, we're trying to create some rapport with people. Just announcing who you are on the phone. It sounds like a traditional way of doing things because it's the way it used to be done many, many years ago when phones were first invented. You needed to know who the other person on the line was, so that the habit that developed was that people would just simply answer with their first name or with their name. That's not good enough anymore. We want to use the company name first of all, so that they know that they've contacted the right place. But before that, we want to say good morning or good afternoon. We say that in order to begin that conversation right, by showing friendliness, by showing eagerness, and by showing that this is not an interruption in our day. Now, we might say good morning or good afternoon followed by a company name, and then we might say Rod speaking. Now, why would I introduce myself by name? Why do they care who I am? Well, it's important to actually introduce yourself by name because, again, I'm going to repeat, you're trying to make a relationship with this person on the phone. You need to communicate who you are. Number 1, so that they can begin treating you as a real person right from the beginning. It's much harder to say no to somebody who has a background and a name than it is a nameless person. Number 2, you invite them to give you their name after you've given them your name. This invokes the rule of reciprocity. If you give somebody something, then if you ask for something similar in return, they're more likely to give it to you if you've already given something to them that's similar. So this is why I suggest giving them your name, so that when you ask for their name next, they're more likely to give it to you. I found that this system works pretty much 99 times out of 100. So introducing yourself by name has a lot of important benefits. Finally, ending that greeting with how can I help invites the caller to begin talking about what it is that they're after. Not asking how can I help, it leaves this sort of pause and awkward space where nobody really knows what to do. Letting them know that you're there to help and that you're ready to help is, it's subtle, but it communicates an important distinction beyond simply just saying your name or your company's name or good morning. So that's the first greeting that you have to give. Again, I'll repeat. It is good morning or good afternoon, the company name, your name, and how can I help? Now, if you're already in a department where somebody has contacted you through a switchboard, they've already reached your company, there's no need to say your company name again. You might instead substitute that with the department. But again, remember those 4 things and say them consistently. And when you do it, make sure that you catch yourself how you do it, because it's not so much about the words you say, but how you say them. And something that we're used to saying over and over and over again 1,000 times may start to sound a little bit canned. So when I say good morning, Livesey Solar, Rod speaking, how can I help? I don't want to say it in the way that I might have said it 1,000 times, like good morning, Livesey Solar, Rod speaking, how can I help? That's actually exactly how a lot of people answer the phone. Instead of that, I would actually put some emphasis on the words so that people really hear them, and it's not just something I just have to say. So it would sound more like, good morning, Livesey Solar, Rod speaking, how can I help? Something like that. And if you do it that way, you introduce that initial rapport that I'm hoping that you're able to develop over the phone.